Hi, everybody. This is Craig Cooper along with Kyle Yeager and Chrissy Seaholm. We're starting our 2019 RAGBRAI Charter webinar. A couple of things that we have on the outset. If you're joining us via phone, you can type, if you're joining us via computer, you can type your questions in and we'll answer those as we go. If you're phoning in, we'll open the mics up at the end to try to answer questions via phone. So we just got a short webinar or PowerPoint that we'll go through. And thanks for joining us, and turn it over to Kyle to start us.
All right, sounds good. I'm gonna get our webcam turned off, and then get this. All right.
Hi, Amy.
Oh, somebody's mic's on.
There we
go. All right, a couple things that we're just going to go over during this. We're going to cover shipping your bike to us, packing your bags, first day check-in, and getting to Council Bluffs. What a typical day of RAGBRAI looks like. I think we'll get a report from Craig on kind of what the route looks like, and also getting home at the end of the week.
You want to start this? I was just saying, for bike shipping, what we'd like to do is have you ship your bikes to us here at Bikes to You. If you're coming from out of state, we'd like to have them arrive by Tuesday, at the very latest Wednesday. I think the premise of that is that if your bike is lost or damaged, FedEx and UPS really just don't make any moves until till 72 hours have passed, and of course that cuts into the into RAGBRAI. One of the things that we do, if you do ship your bike to us, we inspect every bike that comes in and look for obvious damages. If we don't see anything, we will leave that bike in the box and put that on our truck to get to Council Bluffs, where they'll be assembled in Council Bluffs. If we see some damage, we're going to get right after it and try to figure out a solution in case it's damaged.
RAGBRAI does have some preferred shippers on their website. I know that's ragbrai.com. If you do a Google search for shipping bike to RAGBRAI, it'll come up with that page on one of the first couple of Google search results. We pack, let's see.
At the end of the week.
Oh, that's at the end of the week. We are willing to pack your bikes at the end of the week. However, we're going to wait until sometime the week after, because we're all really tired to do that. And there is a $50 packing charge for us to do that. We can ship through one of our local places here that's called Total Choice Shipping, or you may send us a call tag. That is what we have had most people do in the past few years. If you have a shipping account or if you use bike flights, that tends to be the cheapest way to ship a bike. And we will also pack bikes in flying cases. Usually people end up just doing that themselves, and if they've got a question or two, one of us can go, yeah, you really need to put that over there or whatever.
Yeah, we can certainly help pack those on Saturday if you're flying out with your bicycle. A couple of things about packing just in general for RAGBRAI and for our charter. If you're on our regular charter or have our tent service, we suggest that you pack everything in Ziploc bags and usually try to divvy it up by the day. the rule of thumb is that it's going to rain and things are going to get wet, and if you've got everything packed in Ziploc bags, those clothes will stay dry and protected. If you're part of our RAGBRAI and Style crew and you have a bunkhouse, your bags stay inside the trailers all week.
Yeah, it seems like every year we end up with a rainstorm, and somebody's bag is leaning up against the edge of their tent, or they didn't zip the fly closed or something, and stuff gets wet. So that's why we really encourage people to put stuff in Ziploc bags, just as a second line of defense.
We want to just remind you that if you come on a charter, we do not have a baggage limit per se. You can bring as many bags as you want. We do have two rules. One is we want them packed in 30-pound bags or less, meaning each individual bag should be 30 pounds or less, and that's just for the sake of our crew and their backs. And then the second rule is be able to carry your own gear to city blocks. We rarely have to institute the 2 city block rule, but it is it is possible that we might be camped on or that our truck may be parked on a hard surface and our camp position is somewhere in the back of a ball field or something along those lines. And so just, that's the rule of thumb there is 30-pound bags or less and two city blocks. So
yeah, many of our campsites, the truck is going to be on the edge of the campsite, and the campsite is a block deep. So you may have to walk at least a block to go set up your tent. Things to pack: a tent if you're not on our tent service or an in-style. Sleeping pad, again, if you're not in our tent service or in-style. Those of you on tent service may wish to bring something extra. The sleeping pad that we provide with tent service it's a pretty thin foam pad. It'll keep you off the ground, but it's certainly not an air mattress.
Yeah.
Sleeping bag and bedding. It actually, you may find that it gets kind of chilly at night. It seems like every year we have a few people that come up to the truck and ask if we have extra blankets because they didn't bring enough bedding.
Obviously, you want to bring some non-riding clothes. If you're not on our tent service or in style, you'd want to, you're welcome to bring a folding lawn chair of some sort. I would bring the least expensive one possible so that, if it gets lost, stolen, or broken, not stolen, but lost or broken, you're not out in, too much. One thing to talk about on nutritionals this year, it's going to be super important. Once again, we are touching Southern Iowa, and I don't want to make, I don't want to be, I don't know what the word is. Debbie Downer about Southern Iowa, but I will say this: there are some stretches where we're few and far between towns, and even those towns are not particularly big towns with lots of support. So I would either plan on bringing nutritionals or purchase some from us because we'll have them at the shop. Obviously, we're going to have you bring your own towels. We will have we string up a clothesline each night so that you can dry out stuff. But our shower service does not provide towels. You'll have to bring a couple of your own.
Things not to bring: computers, breakables. Our baggage guys, they are going to be careful with your bags. However, your bag might be on the bottom of a pile in the back of the semi-truck. And so breakable things do not go well when they're in the bottom of a 10-foot pile of other bags. I kid about bringing your bicycle. Please make sure to bring your bicycle.
Yeah, and we don't want you to bring something valuable and have it broken. If you absolutely have to, you know, have internet access via a computer, there are libraries, things like that that you can stop in. If you have any questions about packing, feel free to type them in, or we can answer those at the end of that webinar when we turn the phones on. So if you're flying into Des Moines, we would like to arrange airport pickup for you. We have that as an option on our Eventbrite. You can sign up for that at any time still, and that is the way that you make the list. If you call me at the bike shop and say, I want you to pick me up at the airport, and I scribble it on a note, it probably won't happen. So please sign up via Eventbrite, or if you're on the RAGBRAI and Style, you're going to be you'll receive a survey that's going to ask you how you're getting there, and that survey serves as a means for us to compile that list as well. We do have a list of bed and breakfasts and hotels in Grinnell on our website, and there's the address right there. We ask that you arrive on Friday. It is nearly impossible to have somebody fly in on Saturday morning and make the bus. I don't know when the last time we did that. So that's just come in on Friday, and we'll make sure that we pick you up. That said, if there's a flight delay and that kind of thing, we have resources to meet the exceptions, and don't freak out about if something gets delayed and you can't get here until Saturday morning. Then we'll dispatch somebody to make sure that you get to the start of RAGBRAI.
Either your uncle or my mother.
Right. we're about out of friends and family right at the moment. But we have a question from a participant. Okay, we'll come back to that. Okay.
I would like to just kind of go back and say the bed and breakfasts, I think, are probably the best option if you're flying in, because they are, we've got 2 different bed and breakfasts within 3 blocks of Bikes to You.
Well, and we also now have Hotel Grinnell.
Oh, and Hotel Grinnell too.
Right down here.
Yep. So
yep.
There are some nice close options. People always they always ask, hey, how do I get from if I'm staying at the hotel out on the southern end of Grinnell, how do I get back? Honestly, I almost never actually have to arrange for people to go out there and get them, because people figure out who's on our charter, and all of a sudden everybody has a ride to get from the hotels without really us having to try to make that list happen.
The new Hotel Grinnell has been around. I think they were there last year, but they're just a block away, so that's handy as well. So. So the check-in in Grinnell on Friday, we're going to be open until 8 o'clock, and you may drop your bikes off that night, and we'll load those onto the semi-truck. It is locked. It is secure. You can drop your bags off at the shop, but of course those bags have to go on the bus or in the RAGBRAI and Style vehicles. So, you'll just basically come back in the morning and pick them up and go put them on the bus or the trailer that you're going on. But if it's convenient to do that, so you can ride your bicycle here or what have you, go ahead and bring them on down Friday night. The more stuff we can get knocked out Friday night, the better off, obviously we'll be for getting out of here on time on Saturday.
So check-in on Saturday is going to be from 6:45 to 7:45 a.m. at Bikes to You. I'm going to talk to the owner of the coffee shop. I'm sure that she will have some stuff available. If you guys want to have coffee, and she'll probably have some muffins and things as well.
I actually already talked to her this morning.
Oh, okay. Yep. Fantastic.
So,
if you need to park a vehicle, we ask that you check in by 7:15. That's because we do have a parking lot that we can use. It's called the Cooper School lot. I will send out some maps of how to get there and how to get back to the bike shop. It's only a couple of blocks. We'll have a shuttle running, grabbing people from the parking lot. But because we do have to get you parked and then get you on the bus, we ask that you be here a little earlier. It is secure. Campus security does drive through there on a reasonably regular basis throughout the week. But it is not, it's not locked down. It's just an open parking lot.
we've never had a problem.
We've never had a problem with it either. So I will ask before, probably about a week before, if anybody is going to be parking there, I'm going to ask for kind of your vehicle details, and I will give those to campus security so they can get a hold of me or the owner of a vehicle if there was ever an issue. The buses will leave at 8 a.m. From Grinnell.
Yes. So we had a couple of questions that I want to go back to just to answer concerning. So we have some folks that have already booked into Omaha on Saturday. That's no problem. If you are shipping your bikes to us, we're going to take those bikes to the start of the ride, and we'll make arrangements to get either you from the airport over there in Omaha, or to have you know where we are at.
Please email me, Kyle@bikestoyou.com, so that I can arrange for that to happen if you did book those.
And additionally, if you'd like to ship some of your luggage directly to us rather than bring it on the plane, you're more than welcome to do that. We just ask that you mark it attention RAGBRAI, so that when it comes into the shop, we'll make sure that it gets on the semi-tractor trailer. So no problem on that at all. So thanks for asking those questions.
Bikes are transported from Grinnell in a semi-tractor trailer to Council Bluffs, and then from Keokuk, the end town, back to Grinnell on that same semi-truck. We put packing blankets over all of the bikes in the truck. We pack them nice and tight. This has made packing and unpacking much better. And from the way we used to do it, of putting it in a straight truck with cardboard in between them. So far, we really haven't seen much in the way of bicycle damage. That being said, if you wish to put pipe insulation foam on the frame of your bicycle, that is totally fine. We will not be offended by that. So that is also fine.
Yeah.
And we did get one more question about bikes being dropped off on Saturday in the AM. Yes, that's totally fine. We'll have lots of people doing that as well.
Yeah. We'll be loading bikes that morning onto the semi-trailer. So. Something new this year.
Yeah, well, first part is credentials.
Yeah, that's right.
Many of the people on our charter sign up for credentials through the Grinnell Bicycle Club. Those credentials will be available. We'll have a table set up in front of Bikes to You on Saturday morning. You can pick your credentials up at that time. Something new is the Bikes to You chartered jersey. This is something that I teamed up with a jersey manufacturer called Pactimo, and we did a little bit of design work. We've got some things that are specific to Iowa. We got the oak leaf. We've got there's a lot of geode crystal pattern on there. I think there's a goldfinch, and also the Iowa rose is kind of in there in different forms.
Sublimated.
Yeah, sublimated into there. So they look really cool. I did get a sample, and I'm I'm pretty impressed with them. I like how they turned out, nice and light colored for hot sunny days. So those are $60 plus tax. Those orders need to be in by June 19th so that I can have them ordered and made and get them here before RAGBRAI hits. And if you would like that, please email me, Kyle@bikestoyou.com.
Yep. And this is something that kind of came together. Kyle is actually a sales rep for this company, and he'd approached me a couple of times about doing stuff, and I just said, well, this seems like a really good opportunity to do something kind of fun and different. So I will say this at the risk of getting a bunch of phone calls and people asking me where they're at, and I'll bury them in the bottom if you do. No, the credentials did come today.
Oh.
And April is going to be organizing and combining those over the next week or two here to get them into, they send them in mass and they have to be sorted and the numbers all matched up and things like that. So they're not available yet, but by golly, we did get them.
It's earlier than last year.
A lot earlier. Yeah. So getting to the start town, what we'd like you to do is load your bags on the charter bus that you leave on from Grinnell. If we run out of space under the bus, we'd like to have you. We'll put the extra bags in one of the vans or our semi tractor truck. We do have check-in at each bus door. We've checked people in at the door of the bus to make sure that you're physically on the bus when we leave. If you are beginning in the in-town of Keokuk, we do have that as an option. You're going to be receiving some additional information from Kyle. We contract with another charter, Pork Belly, who handles our front end leg of that. And you will, if you've signed up for that, you will get some specific information here in the next week or two concerning that.
There's a few more details that I need to iron out with that, but you guys, everybody from our charter will be riding together on one bus, and Pork Bellies will bring you right to our campsite, and then we will take care of getting your bikes from them if they don't just bring them to us. Granted, their campsite is literally just on the other side of a grove of trees from our campsite in Council Bluffs. So,
if you're, by the way, if you're meeting us in Council Bluffs, that works too. We have several folks that have we have several folks that are doing that are beginning there, and you'll receive our campground location with the same packet that everybody gets as to where we are. That will come electronically.
Yep.
So,
yep. And I will have, in that will also be driving directions in and out of the campsite. That way, those of you who are getting dropped off can easily get in and out. I believe they are going to have some roads that are normally two-way be one-way, just for traffic flow. So make sure to look at that and don't just follow your GPS to the campsite.
I will tell you that after being in Council Bluffs, that entire section, that entire area is still under construction from, what was it, 4 or 5 years ago? They've made improvements, but it is, they're doing some big work out there. So it's going to be a bit of a tangled mess in that area. But
riding, kind of a day-to-day operation, how our charter works. All bags left out at nightfall in our baggage area will be loaded on the front of the semi-truck, and they will not be unloaded the following day. So please make sure that you get all of your bags that you are going to need. Any unneeded bags may be loaded onto the truck that night, the night before. Please just put them on the edge of the truck. We'll get them in there loaded in the front. These bags will not, I repeat, will not be unloaded. So don't put your
bag on the truck.
If it's got, your gloves or your shorts in there, because you won't be getting it the next morning.
If you in the morning, though, we do ask that you put your bag on the back of the truck.
Yep.
Don't just set it on the ground somewhere in the vicinity of the truck.
Yep.
We ask that you set it on the end of the truck.
Yep. It just makes it a lot easier for the people loading the truck to not have to be getting in and out of the truck constantly to grab bags. Water will be available in the morning. We leave. We typically have about 25. Well, actually, no. It's probably 35 gallons of water that is waiting for people so they can put their fill their water bottles in the morning. The charging station, sports drink, and really it says alcohol, but any of the coolers that have bottled beverages in them will not be available. Those are packed at usually at 8 p.m. is when we break down our campsite for the evening, and those things will be packed and they will not be available. That is just so that our crew is able to more easily get things rolling in the morning. When we start packing down camp, if you guys are enjoying the evening, you guys can keep hanging out, but we are going to knock down our awnings and we're going to pick up the coolers so that we can quickly get out into the next town the next morning. Our semi-truck will roll at 7:30 a.m. Each morning. So that's to make sure that we can get everything set up before, we like to have everything set up before noon for you guys in the next town. And sometimes I even get beat to the next town. And I leave really early.
During the day, a couple of things I'll just talk about, and some of these are really obvious, but drink plenty of water. I would sure ask that, just take your time and enjoy RAGBRAI. This is not an environment that you can race anyway. So you might as well have fun and take your time and see the sights. I said this a few years ago when we left, for Council Bluffs for RAGBRAI, but this route is quintessential Iowa. We touched the Los Hills right at the very first day, and you get a real sense of what that windblown sediment can pile up into. If you're going to do the gravel loop, you're going to end up with about 4,000 feet of climb for the day on that first day. So it's a bugger, and I think I'd have to go back and check, but I want to say that it was like 89 miles that day with the gravel loop. So and of course I had some hotel running around too, but it's a long day. But this is a great route to take your time with. You're going to see just about every kind of environment that we have, whether it's central Iowa with some a little more gently rolling hills, to as we get over by the river, to kind of that almost bluff type of going down through Geode State Park, and that kind of thing is kind of cool. So as far as safety goes, one of the big things is it's really all about communication, with other riders, and I would very much suggest a bell. If you don't have one, consider getting a bell, because it's nice. It's nice to be able to communicate with people in a polite manner. Don't be afraid to yell out. I mean, as cyclists, we're kind of pacifists in general, but in this scenario, being a little bit assertive and saying on your left, and bike off, and biker on, communicating those terms as you do it one, it helps you be cognizant of what you're doing, and two, it informs the people around you what you're doing. And most of the accidents that I think we see involve where somebody is getting on or off of the route, and then someone else ends up running into them. I mean, I think vast majority of those accidents are what causes that. I think there's going to be quite a bit of pie on this year's route. On pre-ride, we and I want to do a little shout out. In Atlantic, there's going to be a church organization, and I should have the name of the church in front of me, but it is just south of kind of the main intersection there, about a half a mile, and they are going to do nothing but pie. And there is a 93-year-old lady grandma, who is she's the master pie maker, and she's directing this entire operation. And I'm telling you what, it was some pretty doggone good pie. And I think it'll be like free will donation or something. So it's not they're not going to overcharge you for it. It's south on the main drag. I should look that up and get that into everybody. So with severe weather is always an issue in Iowa in July, and we take it seriously. Several years ago, we had what I would call a pretty good sized problem, and we don't want that to ever happen again. And so we're gonna we take steps to mitigate that severe weather scenario the best we can. Kyle communicates with each overnight community to know what their severe weather plan is. Every community that hosts RAGBRAI as an overnight has to have an emergency plan. And now it is a real task for some of these communities to get 20-some thousand people inside a safe environment, but they do their best, and then we do our best to know that plan. What it eventually comes down to is there's if there is warnings to us, we will warn you, and then as an adult, you get to make your own choices about whether you take cover or not. But know that we don't do this willy-nilly. Nobody wants to stay up all night in a high school gymnasium for nothing. But by the same token, if they say take cover and tell us that we need to be moving, certainly our staff will be going to take cover. So
we will get it. We will let everyone know to get out of the campsite, and then we will be following. We had this happen in Newton, and my staff was gathered. We were waiting to hear what was happening. Me and a couple of people wandered around the campsite, very loudly saying that what the plan was if we were asked to evacuate, so that everybody had an idea of how we needed to do that. And then when we finally got the call from a city police officer saying, you guys should get out of your campsites, we then started at one end of the campsite and swept the entire campsite to make sure that everybody went the right direction.
And usually it's a church or a school or something nearby where we're going. So we'll know that plan. If there's severe weather during the day, the good news about severe weather during the day is it's generally short-lived. It can be violent, but in Iowa, if the thunderstorm rolls through, it's usually going to be maybe as long as a half hour, 45 minutes, and blow through. If you're on the route, we always say, just go to the nearest farmhouse, try to make some friends. Iowa people are friendly. They'll understand that you're trying to take cover. You'll probably end up getting a full meal out of the deal and being on their Christmas card list. So, don't hesitate to knock on a farm door if that's the case. There'll probably be a couple thousand people following you too. Worst case scenario, and if there is a tornado or there would be a tornado, and I did this one time, it wasn't a tornado, but it was a hailstorm and a lightning storm outside of Silver City, New Mexico. get in a ditch, pull your bicycle over the top of you, and lay as flat as you can. That would be, if you're out in the middle of nowhere. So a couple other things that I was going to touch on, kind of from a medical standpoint. RAGBRAI involves a fair amount of, effort as far as exercise and that kind of thing. And if you haven't been training, like I wasn't for pre-ride, just know that you're going to have some reactions. Your medications may react differently with you under exercise, and it's just something to be aware of. You don't want to get yourself in trouble from a dehydration standpoint or overheating. Some antibiotics don't allow you to be in the sun. I mean, or you need to take special precautions on that. Certainly, just be aware that medications will react differently under those circumstances. There is a whole team of RAGBRAI EMS out there. Bob Libby and the CARE ambulance crew take great care of RAGBRAI riders. And if you have a problem, know that you can go up to them at any point and they can help you out there. During the day, we really want you to relax with your ride, knowing that we have a campsite picked out. If something goes wrong with that campsite, it's on us to figure out how we're going to fix that. So you take your time and ride, and don't worry about that. There's not going to be enough room for tents or whatever. Sometimes we have to shrink down a little bit or expand out, but we really do make accommodations for everybody in our group, and we want you to know that that's part of the deal. Kyle will send out electronically maps of all the campsites in July. We do have to wait. Well, we don't have to wait, but we do wait until the routes in and out of towns are finalized with the overnight towns, and sometimes they drag their feet about that a little bit.
Yeah. I like to give you guys the exact route that I'm going to be having the route come in on for your bikes, for you riding your bikes. So with that, it does take a little bit longer because sometimes they don't get their maps published until a week and a half before, and then I have to go to them and I have to say, okay, here's the route, but here's where my campsite is. How am I getting from the route to my campsite? Yeah. So we like to do that. Yeah.
All right. Kyle will start signing at the beginning of town and follow the main route as long as possible. Now, that means he'll follow the RAGBRAI main route as long as possible. You'll see our Bikes to You signs that look exactly like this, that are you'll see those on the main route as well as on when we deviate from that route. Yep. We post those signs every block or two, kind of depending on the availability of signs and locations that way. There is another club that you should be aware of called BBC.
Bob Bransel Charters.
Yes, and they have a very similar sign, but when you know the difference, then you'll be able to deal with that. If you don't see signs, keep following the rider route, meaning we're not going to sticker every 50 yards on the rider route when that's, you're still on there.
This mostly becomes an issue when there are large campsites prior to the overnight town. If a couple of charters are camped 5 miles before town, I'm not riding my bicycle that far to go put signs up.
Yeah. Just follow the route into town and you'll be fine. Right?
Yep.
And then go ahead.
We do have on there, if you've seen any other signs that confused you, please let us know. We'll mention those. We haven't had any other ones in the last few years. So.
And worst case scenario too, if you the retail bicycle shop, Bikes to You, will know the location. So if you are lost in Atlantic or wherever, and you absolutely cannot find camp, and you don't know who to ask where the retail bike shops are, and go find the Bikes to You trailer there, and they'll give you directions. Now, maybe back across town, but they will know where it's at.
Shower trailer. A couple of years ago, Craig and I built a shower trailer. We were actually working on it earlier today. And so a couple of things that we did with this. We wanted to still be able to get small campsites. This allows us to sometimes have, great shade, and we're not, sitting on the side of a field because that's the only place that a fire hydrant and sewer hookup was. So we have a self-contained 1,500 gallon tank system. With that, please conserve water, because we only have 1,500 gallons, and that can go away pretty quickly, especially with people washing clothing and sitting in, running the shower for a long time.
And actually, in the past couple of years, our folks have been really, really good.
Yeah, they have.
Locate our charter. There's actually, if we didn't do it this way, we'd have to be at a fire hydrant and at a sanitary sewer. And getting those two things plus enough room for a couple hundred people to camp is it's a pretty low margin likelihood that those would be available. So just if you can, conserve water. Last year we instituted a washer kit with the 5-gallon bucket thing, and that upped our water usage quite a bit, which was more my problem than it became Kyle's problem.
But I had to shut down the shower trailer for about 45 minutes to go get more water.
So just conserve water if you can, and that'd be great. So if you have any questions about daily riding, feel free to ask. I've ridden the entire route with the exception of the last day, which I got a report on from some friends, and the last day you'll have a tailwind for sure, and it's downhill because you're riding backwards. No, it's from what they said, the last day was an amazing ride, and from Burlington to Keokuk, and it's certainly a special. It's unique for RAGBRAI. We've never done that. Like I said, I missed that day of pre-ride in order to attend an event here in Grinnell, but it was the rest of the route was pretty spectacular. So if you have a question about it, feel free to type it or ask it after we kind of turn the phones on here. And
getting home at the end of the ride. If you leave the ride before Keokuk, or if somebody is picking you up in Keokuk and you're supposed to be on the bus, please inform me, Kyle, so that I have an accurate count of riders on the way home. Otherwise, you and maybe some of your friends will be getting phone calls from me going, "Where is this person? We're holding the bus for you." So please let us know if you're leaving. That way that we're not waiting for you. I will put signs up beginning at the dip site. So this is the one caveat to the putting them at the beginning of town. If you are not wanting to dip your tires, that is totally fine. Ride to the dip site and then start looking around. The signs might be behind you. But we will try and sign that as best as possible and just follow those over to the truck.
So the semi and buses will leave Keokuk at approximately 3 p.m. This year, I think we're just going to be 2 buses, and once one bus fills, we will send that bus. It'll be completely full, but when it fills, we'll send it. So that bus may leave at 1:45 or 2 o'clock, but the last charter bus and the last, and the bicycles and, essentially all of our support stuff will leave at approximately 3 p.m. And that is, so, if you're on that first bus, you're going to have to wait to get your bike when you get back. And I apologize, but there's just no other good way to do that.
One other thing, we will have luggage tags of some type for anybody that is leaving from Keokuk, not on the bus. Make sure you get some of those from me, because I don't want to put your bag, go, where's this person? I don't know. Maybe they already made it to Grinnell. Throw it on the bus, and then all of a sudden you call me and say, hey, where's my bags? And we're halfway to Grinnell.
And we'll send out another reminder on that too, because that is new for this year, and it's something that's very, very important. So airport shuttle in and out of Des Moines. Please do not schedule a flight out of Des Moines on Saturday. It's just not likely that it's going to happen. I don't mean to be Debbie Downer on that, but it's a long way from Keokuk, and I think the last flight out of Des Moines is probably 7:30 or 8 o'clock, which is going to be tough to make. We will do a shuttle to Des Moines on Saturday night, and we'll have a drop-off location to be decided, but I would think that it would be to the Des Moines airport or a airport hotel in the vicinity. We'll kind of do that on an as-need basis.
If you are going to do that, please stay at a hotel that has an airport shuttle.
Yeah. And then if you do have a flight before 8 a.m. on Sunday. We would like you to take you to Des Moines to a hotel, wherever you want to stay, that has a hotel shuttle that night. We will run Sunday morning shuttles to the airport. It's just that our earliest shuttle is probably not going to leave until, 6 o'clock, probably. 6 o'clock. So we physically can't do the turnaround of getting home at, some of our crew getting home at midnight and being up at 4 a.m. to take people to the airport at that time. So if you have an early morning flight, please go to Des Moines on Saturday night in one of the shuttles. And if you otherwise, we'll get you to Des Moines on Sunday. Once again, you sign up for that airport shuttle on the Eventbrite website. So,
and I will, before we get probably about a week or two before, I will send out a survey of everybody that's signed up and say, hey, I need to know your flight information, and I will create a schedule for going and picking people up. So, yeah, if you are not signed up on Eventbrite, you will not get that email.
Here's the people to contact. Kyle Yeager is the charter director. My sister Chrissy Seaholm is the RAGBRAI and style director. Obviously, I'm always available as the owner of the bike shop. If you have some further questions, we'd sure appreciate if you wanted to type them in, or we'll go ahead and hit unmute. Now, we might have to kind of take turns here because it gets a little busy, but go ahead. Everybody should be live if somebody wants to start off with a question. Is there any other questions?
Let's see here.
Oh, Bob Campbell has asked if, excuse me, Bob, how are you doing, Bob? He's been the world traveler. No, you do not have to remove pedals of your bicycle. Wendy, there'll be some additional information coming about if you're beginning in the in-town of Keokuk. If you signed up for that on our Eventbrite site, that information will be coming in the next couple of weeks here directly from Kyle.
Yeah, I've been talking to Keokuk. We have a specific, there's a specific place that they're going to have our group parking. You will need to pay for parking in Keokuk. But yes, I will have specific instructions for you as to how to sign up for that, timing, and all of those things.
The jerseys.
Oh, the jerseys. Jerseys, we got a question about how to pay for those. I will send you a PayPal invoice. Please just email me that you are interested, your size, and then I'll send that invoice over to you. Let's see here.
Somebody asked, isn't your bike on top of you like a metal blanket conductor? Well, unless it's carbon fiber, then you're okay. We have a writer that's asked, what happens if you go at a slower pace and end up way behind the rest of the riders? Pretty much, you know, you've got all day to do this ride, and it certainly, I think for, you know, in most scenarios, it's doable for, you know, folks of reasonable fitness levels. You know, obviously, if you have to sag, there are sag wagons out there. It's not fun to sag on RAGBRAI. You know, it's a van full of 15 people, and they're all sweaty, and it goes very, very slow. So
RAGBRAI does provide those sags, and if you need to sag in, you need to take that sag wagon. We are not a sag service. We are not even allowed to go out on the route. So, will you be talking about each day ride?
You know, I will tell you some of the challenges that we had on the route this year were weather related, which of course doesn't really translate. We had some pretty strong headwinds. We had a day of rain. In general, I think that the you know, the terrain is, you know, it's hilly, but it's not undoable by any means. I will say that the gravel loop, you know, we're in the Los Hills, and in the Los Hills, those gravel roads have not been graded for, you know, the degree, you know, what do you call it, incline. And so there's some pretty doggone steep hills on the gravel loop. Unlike last year, I did not walk any this year. So, I mean, I think that's last year, I think I walked 4 or 5 of those hills. And this year I was able to do it without, without walking. You know, Bob was asking some questions about particular days that are challenges. That day from Indianola to Centerville, you know, it's a long haul. It's reasonably hilly, and there are few towns in between. And that's, you know, that makes for a day where you have to stay hydrated on your own. Take those nutritionals like I was talking about before. And you know, you may have to get off your bike and seek some shade in a place where there isn't a town, because there just isn't that many pass-throughs that day. You know, the day out of Centerville to Fairfield is certainly not flat by any means, but it is a beautiful ride as you get out that direction. Going down through Geode State Park, this is going to be really interesting because it's some pretty tight corners. We're going to have a lot of people on the route that day, and it's you're going to have to be careful going through Geode State Park. You know, fast downhills and tight turns. But specifically, you know, the communities are super excited. Centerville hosted not too long ago, and they had a great time with it, and I think they're stoked to do it. Indianola is excited to be there in Winterset. We had a great turnout in Winterset. Their theme is everybody's a winner in Winterset, which is kind of fun. And then, of course, Fairfield just went on their theme, which is it's a combination of steampunk, which I didn't even know what steampunk was, which is kind of a, what would you call it?
It's like antique mechanical.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah, it's like thank Doc on Back to the Future.
Yeah.
And then glow party. So it's like two things that don't make any sense together, which is what Fairfield says their community's like. They're an agricultural community, and they're a Maharishi University transcendental mental or something like that. Anyway,
transcendental meditation.
Yeah. There you go. So Kyle's trying to answer some questions.
I'm just answering some suggestive questions.
If somebody has a verbal question, can you go ahead and ask it? Here's some people. I haven't heard anybody talk.
Gwen, could you mute your phone?
Anybody there that wants to ask a question? Okay. I'm not sure that part is working, but we'll see. We'll go down through some of the other questions here. We do have some writers that are joining us midweek. We're going to email them some specific instructions about where we're at. There's
Ship My Bike.
Yeah, shipbikes.com and shipbikes.com and Bike Flights are the two organizations. Okay. That was my response. How many total? Somebody asked how many total people are on our charter. Our numbers are down a little bit, but I think we're going to end up probably about 150 total. Does that sound right?
That
Kyle?
Sounds about right.
Yeah, there are people joining us part of the week, and but we just have 2 buses going out, so about 150 total. We're kind of reading through some other or questions. Okay. Well, that kind of concludes our webinar for this year. If you do have any, we've recorded this. So if you need to pass it along to somebody, you're sure welcome to do that. It'll be posted on our website in a few days. If you have any other questions, obviously don't hesitate to ask Kyle, myself, or Chrissy. We're here to help. We want to make the logistics of your ride smooth so that you can have fun, and that's our goal. So thank you for joining us, and we'll stick around here and see if anybody types any other questions. But have a good evening.
Oh, tire size for the gravel loop. I didn't see that question.
So, Andrea, if you're still there about tire size for gravel loop, I think, if you're reasonably lightweight and adept at gravel, you can ride a 28C. I would certainly not recommend that for a guy my size. 35 is probably standard fare. Yeah.
I know personally 28s I can do it. Not always fun.
I rode a 28 for the whole season a year ago and flatted 4 times, and I decided that was too many flats for the season. So, all right. Well, thank you very much. We're going to sign off here. Have a good evening.
Hey, Greg.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's Kathy Hansen. How are you doing?
Good.
Hi, Chrissy. Hi, Kyle. Yeah, the Merry Little Band. We were just hanging around a little bit to see if there was. I think a couple of years ago when we came with you, we had a separate little call for planning purposes about the RAGBRAI style. Is that happening this year, or is this it right now?
Yep. Nope. We also have a RAGBRAI style webinar PowerPoint. Kyle and I were just
We can do that if you want.
Oh, I thought there was a PowerPoint that you were talking about earlier.
Oh, I have one from like 3 years ago, or from 2 years
ago. We can. I think we don't really know.
The answer is no, Kathy.
Yeah, but certainly there are some things that are going to change compared to a couple of years ago, and I might as well go through those now. So because of the number of people that we have, we need to make some different arrangements for storage of the bikes, and we're working on that as we speak, because physically getting that many bicycles into the truck is problematic at night, and so we're going to look at a means to hang them from the semi tractor trailer, RAGBRAI style. And that's Kyle and I were just working on that earlier. So and last year, Chrissy didn't shuttle people to food. People found their way either via the city shuttle, or we were actually in close proximity several times. So we kind of, because the numbers grew to that point, we still invite you to our crew mess tent every evening, and there will be a survey coming out from Chrissy with asking if you're inclined to participate with the menu that we provide. Those are the big changes that I can think of.
Okay, just a couple quick questions. I certainly don't want to talk to the whole group, but did I hear then that it might be, the change might be that it's not going to be a trailer where our bikes will be stored at night or put over there, and that maybe we should, because there's more campers now, and that maybe we should try to keep them in our room?
You're welcome. So, one of the things that we started last year was that we offered for people to go ahead and take them in their rooms, just because we had some avid cyclists who didn't want their bike out of their sight.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that. You can take your bike into your room. There's no problem at all. But realistically, I think what we're looking at is storing them underneath the trailer, the semi-tractor trailer, either in a hanging position or some sort of rack, just because it'll make life, and they will be locked. I mean, we'll lock them up every night. So
yeah, we'll figure it out. I'm certainly not that person that was worried about having my bike out of sight. And if I was going to store, if we were going to store both of our bikes in our room, then Christina wouldn't have been able to stay in there.
Well, for Christina.
Yeah, I think in the bigger rooms there probably room for a couple of bikes, but we'll have a dry, or as dry as things can be on RAGBRAI, and a secure place to store bikes.
Okay. Yeah, and some of them, if they're heavy there's racks for bikes that they don't have to be hung. And by the way, I want to know, Chrissy, are you going to be able to get me some fresh strawberries? I'll leave that alone.
They're going to be on the ice, not in the ice.
Okay.
Just
all right,
for
well,
you.
we're looking forward to it. If any of our merry little band, I know there's more people than just us on here than our, however many we are, 7 or 12 or 15, I don't know. But if any of our group has questions, I'll be, that's their turn now. But otherwise, Craig, we'll be in touch with you with any additional questions.
Absolutely.
Little concerned about that shower thing, only because I'm one of the riders that comes in later in the day, and you don't want me to be around RAGBRAI style without a shower.
Oh, the trailer has worked out really.
He's just scaring you. It's fine.
Unfortunately, I let the shower freeze up over the winter, and I had to replace all the shower valves this afternoon.
Yep.
But at least I found out about it now and not the week before RAGBRAI.
Yeah.
So We actually got it online and working today, and in the next week or so, we'll make sure the heaters are fired up and that they work. And we'll make sure everybody gets a good shower. Yep. And one other we didn't talk about was porta potties. That we do have porta potties that are specific to our campsite.
Yeah.
So
that was a couple of years ago. We added the porta potties.
I wonder why.
They are designated to us. We try to, I always encourage the towns, if there are other people camping near us, to have porta potties that are not the ones that we're bringing, because we only bring enough for our group. But yeah, we do. There will be at least some near the campsite that are for us specifically. Yeah.
Craig, Chrissy, one last quick question. I think you said there would be a survey about people who plan to join some of the meals or not that earn RAGBRAI style. Is that right?
Yes. Yep. And that was Chrissy and I talked earlier today. She was going to get the menu from the aunts to get that survey going here in the next week or so.
Perfect. Thanks.
All right. Well, I think we'll call that good for today. And thanks for joining us. And we're going to be together in just a little over a month, and good time to be had by all. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks.